Okay, if we move on to board book page 53, I would like to present the capital improvements life safety project summary. The following summary captures all revenue and expenditures from the 2015 through 2017 capital improvements projects. The two main sources of revenue are the non-life safety funds. This is the capital development grant, the state maintenance grant, and any other revenue that came in. That totaled approximately $9,227,000. And then the other source of revenue is the life safety bonds. That totaled $6,398,652, giving the district total revenue of $15,625,652. Project expenditures were tracked per specific year, individual projects, and by what type of funds were used for payment. Overall, the district spent $15,796,162 to complete all the projects. This is approximately $180,000 over budget. The majority of the additional costs were due to legal fees, zoning and special permitting process, and design revisions. If we move on to board book page 54, we can go through the summary. The non-life safety funds that are there, giving the dollar amounts, breaking it out. And of course, the life safety bonds as they are linked to the amendments that the board approved and bonded out for. The project expenditure summaries, as you can see, our 2015 project is the outside stadium, the tennis courts, the parking lot, the roof, permitting, and legal fees. The 2016 project was the main gym, additional roofs, and exit G. And in 2017, there was some more additional roofs that were done. If you look at the summary, it's broken down with what type of funds were used to pay for these projects, giving the overall summary of our $15,796,162 that was spent.
Can I stop you there?
Yes.
You did a good job just going a little bit fast. So WC, is that the working cash?
That is working cash.
So, but doesn't that belong in one of the other two in some fashion or not?
That is that working cash had to be transferred in order to pay for those additional expenditures. So after you exhausted all of the non-life safety funds, then you would have to use working cash dollars to be transferred to pay for the additional expenditures. So currently, looking at each individual, there is a surplus of $246,000 in life safety bonds. That money will be used for additional roof work, projected to be out in 2023. And if you take the surplus of life safety dollars and the working cash dollars, gives a net of $180,000.
So Scott, we don't need to go through each page. But if the board at a later date, and this will also be posted to the website under the board account, but on 55 is basically the summary for everything related to the outdoor athletic complex. On 56 is everything related to the gym, or is that still the, okay, 57.
57
is everything related to the gym and the roofs that we did in the summer of 16. And then 58 is all the roof work we did this past summer. And so one thing that we wanted to make sure we did, learning from the previous board and the previous administration, we wanted to make sure each part of the project was accounted for. So that's why you see like bleachers are separate, the building separate, the field separate, the track separate, the tennis, the parking, the fence. Now, some of these subcontractors worked in both areas, in multiple parts of the project, and so that's why you'll see their name mentioned multiple times. This is going all the way back to when Tim McGinnis was even still here, working with our construction manager, trying to break this out as specific as possible so we could identify at the end of the day what the building cost at the athletic complex, what the field cost. So that was one thing we weren't able to do with the previous project. So this kind of lays all that out, and then what account was used to pay for it.
And I don't know if it'd be much different, and especially like to see what Laura and John think, because we did get a lot of pushback on that we didn't properly as a board and administration account for the construction that was done in the main building in, 2007 or so now.
Yeah.
And that's one reason you're making this, but it's useful to break it down by year because that's how we planned it. But I think it'd also be useful to just do a second summary and just break it down by component, like roofs, because there's roofs in every year. There's a couple of things that overlap years, and just say, the stadium costs this much. Most of it's there already, but rather than have one other summary that breaks it down strictly by component and not dividing it by year. I don't know, John or Laura, what do you think? Or does this,
I think it's a great
this is
idea.
good enough?
If you want to simplify it, that'd be more like a summary sheet. Okay, the track was supposed to cost this, it did. The stadium complex was supposed to cost this is what it cost.
Well, that's already in there. I think
That's already in there?
I think what he's saying is outdoor athletic complex, X million dollars. Roof work over the last 3 years, X million of dollars.
Gym,
Main gym
Main
and
gym.
internal renovations, X million.
you could put the main lines for each one of them.
You have the data here, so
It's
we
all
I'm
Yeah,
just
it's already
saying that
there.
at the end of the
It's
day,
just-
so somebody wants to know how much did we spend on roofs over 3 years, they don't have to
It'll
add a
be-
bunch of numbers.
yeah, they don't have to add 'em
And
up.
roofs are the main thing that's spread around, but.
But our total, if I'm looking at it, the total budget, we had the $8 million grant, we came in right around there. And I just want to remind us, the first two years that the four of us came on, we spent all that time scanning hundreds of documents, hundreds. And we put them on the web. And did anybody ever come to pore over them or look at them?
Couple people ask questions,
Okay,
but not too much.
so let that be a lesson in how much we're gonna do for this. Because we had the $8 million grant, we came in at 8 million, and some change. Maybe another little summary, but
This breaks it down well.
yeah.
Again, what I'm asking for is a lot of effort on your part, Scott, to do it just project whole instead of by year.
Okay. All the information is there. We'll get that compiled and
Okay.
And,
we'll be able to
get a draft.
put another box on this summary that just says over 3 years. We could figure out a short summary out of that.
Well, again, you've got plenty of information that's supported by, and, one of the other complaints was, what did the cost versus what we budgeted, and we've,
That's all accounted
on a
for.
monthly basis, reported on that, and you've got that accounted for, so, thank you.
okay.
Can I
Good
ask a
job.
overall question on this? When we budgeted it, we had a contingency as part of that budget, correct?
Yes, it's,
So our over is above and beyond the contingency?
Our over, there's not, if you look really closely, if you went to each one of these projects, and when they're broken out by the individual stadium, tennis bar, all that, not one of those really went over budget. The 426 that came out of working cash was primarily for legal fees, permitting fees. That was all money that was, every time we had to go to a special zoning permit, we had to pay for 3 or 4 the architect engineers to be there, parking studies. So there wasn't, to my knowledge, I think if you look at this, when you start going through like what they bid and what we spent, there wasn't really anybody that was significantly or over budget. That's why when you go down the far right column, anything with a negative means we were under budget there. So the project, all the actual projects to build the construction work was under budget. It was all the
And the-
professional service fees.
Right. The marble work on the front stairs.
Right.
It's totally
didn't anticipate that.
unanticipated,
Right.
right?
So if you look at like the parking lot, we were 3,000 over. Fence was 1,000 over. Everything else was pretty much under budget.
But the parking lot and tennis court, though, from the original design to the new design, there was an additional cost
Right.
with it.
But some of that's under plan revisions that came out of
Mhm.
working cash. But I think the biggest thing he was getting at was, even with the contingencies, how did we go over it? Well, that's because of mostly all the redesign, the revisions, and the special stuff we had to go through.
So overall, I mean, it looks like things were on target, and we knew they were on target.
We did $15 million of work, and we were within 180,000 of budget.
Which is about 1%.
Right. And that's with a lawsuit and,
Extra studies, remember? We had to do extra,
Change orders.
we had to do extra traffic studies, extra lighting studies.
so overall it was a good project, I would say.
You say, we didn't mismanage the funds.
Right,
That's
everything-
what I'm saying.
everything's accounted
I
for.
mean, that's
Well, I
the
think if
gist
you-
of the whole thing, right? And
Correct.
that's how we're judged, yeah.
And if you look
I
at
mean,
page 56,
the design was-
on the bottom, the list of additional costs there, Kevin pretty much highlighted when I've been looking
The design
at
was
it.
good.
You know, most of those had to do with the change of design either for the water system we required or because of the special, you know, this lawsuit and the hearings we had to prepare
The zoning
for.
board approved it 7-0.
I mean, we had $163,000 in legal fees that we didn't anticipate, so it's unfortunate, but, and we still were within 1%.
Yeah, it's close to 1 or 2%, so.
That's why we had to pay extra money.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Other way, Gene or John?
Good job,
Anything else,
Scott.
Nothing on that particular.
Good job, Scott.
Okay, thank you.
Report.
Good work.
Yeah, that's a
Appreciate
good
it.
report.